So, hi guys, my name is Nikita Ostrovsky. I'm here to talk about, I'm from Outbrain, and I work on the visibility team here. And we're really passionate about metrics and metrics delivery mostly. But I'm here to talk to you guys about how we can build a Grafana policy using the API. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we did it, but most importantly, you guys can do it, and it's really, really easy. But first, let's talk a little bit about Outbrain. You've probably never heard of us before, but you've probably used us. That's our widget. It comes in many different shapes and sizes. But basically, we're a content recommendation platform. We handle about 2.5 million requests per day, about 560 million unique users per month. And we are absolutely hiring. So if you are interested, come see either myself or anybody else wearing an Outbrain shirt. Our metric stack is very complicated, and scale is one of the big things that we really talk about. The reason we do that is because we're kind of in the middle between that really small startup that can run like a 2-machine Graphite cluster and like Uber or Netflix that need to write their own time series database. And just to give you guys some numbers, so we have a standard Collecti Graphite Nagios stack. We have an in-house dashboarding engine as well as Grafana, but we're migrating everybody over to Grafana. We handle about 10 million metrics per minute from our Grafana stack. We also have an ELK stack that handles about 100,000 to 1 million log lines per minute. And we're in the process of implementing Prometheus, where we've seen upwards of 10 million metrics per minute per collector. But we noticed a real problem. Anytime we create a solution and let developers create their own dashboards, we realize that they have a really good understanding of any query language, especially the Graphite query language. But they have a really poor understanding of the operational limitations that their browser has, the operational limitations of the Grafana machine, and most importantly, the Graphite cluster. And when you handle something at 10 million metrics a minute, and especially Graphite, who wasn't built to handle 2 million metrics a minute, you really need to kind of protect them, let's put it that way. So the first thing, we noticed a few common problems. The first common problem that we saw was absolutely terrible naming conventions. And as we moved to Prometheus, like the guys over at SoundCloud, we noticed that we need to segregate our Prometheus machines based on owner. So based on a group rather than some arbitrary service. And so because of that, we needed to have the owner built into the name of the dashboard. And most importantly, we needed to not have dashboards like JVM metrics. We have 200 microservices within Outbrain. So whose JVM metrics are they? I'm not really sure to this day. And we also noticed that test dashboards really clutter up search results. And it really makes the user experience from the developer's perspective say, oh, well, this isn't production ready. It's got all these test dashboards there. Then another thing we saw is some dashboards that have way too many panels. This is an actual dashboard that we used in Grafana 1 before we implemented this policy. It's literally the most important dashboard that we have. And almost every single DevOps guy uses it, and it never loads, ever. And the reason it never loads is because having a dashboard that has too many graphs like this causes a lot of problems, like unnecessary load on the browser to render them, and a tremendous amount of load on the Graphite cluster. And finally, there's absolutely insane queries that we've seen some developers use. In this example, the developer is querying every file system on every Hadoop machine in every data center. So it puts quite a heavy load on the browser. But if we just do some math, we can take a look. We have about 2,000 Hadoop machines, 6 file systems per machine, and 5 drives on every machine. So you're asking Grafana, or rather your browser, to render 60,000 lines on one query. And then if you look back for 12 hours, you're really telling Graphite, hey, go give me 43 million data points and tell me what happens. And I got news for you, it's not pretty. So we kind of came up with a solution to make Grafana feel fast and enjoyable, despite the naming and performance issues that ultimately the users were creating for themselves. So we created a chef resource that manages Grafana. It was a consolidated effort within the visibility team, and it really took us about a week. You can do this as simple as a script or a cron job. It's just really using the API to your advantage. So just to go over some quick API functions that are already built in to Grafana, there's a million lines of documentation about them. You could just use a search function to just give you a list of dashboards. You can look at a specific dashboard and get a full JSON output of that dashboard. And that's really good to iterate over it and see what do we like and what don't we like about this dashboard. And most importantly, you can send deletes and posts and puts as HTTP requests to the dashboard and make changes. That's really like the lever that we use to say this dashboard is a good one and this one's not so good. So we kind of created a policy based on those common problems and the API. So we said, if your naming convention doesn't match this particular regex or it's below a certain length, we're going to mark you as like a bad dashboard. And if you have more than a certain number of panels, as we iterate over the JSON, we're going to also say you're not really a good dashboard, you're a bad dashboard. Same thing with, and as far as the number of metrics within a dashboard, we're kind of testing this because we're afraid it's going to kill our own Graphite cluster. But at the moment, the plan is anytime you see a Graphite URL within that JSON, go out to the Graphite URL, format it raw, and give me a count of that. And then once I get that count, I can say, you're querying way too many metrics. The problem is I'm querying way too many metrics at the moment that you're querying to tell you that you're querying too many metrics. So maybe if you created like a small time series there, you could say like, give me an average of like 5 minutes on that, then maybe it would be more effective. Again, we're still testing that, but I think there's definitely some options there. But ultimately, using the API, you can just make your own policy. This is really easy stuff. So what do? We have like this big list of bad dashboards. So we created a separate organization with Grafana, within Grafana that we just called Quarantine. You guys can see it right here. And if we don't like your dashboard, we just move it into Quarantine. And Quarantine has no data sources. So we just killed your dashboard. But guess what? We also sent you an email. And then next time, and then when you go and fix it, the next time Chef runs, we'll back it up, delete it, and then recreate it back in the Outbrain dashboard. And so that's really just some basic concepts. Wow, I went through this really quickly.
That's great.
So it's really some basic concepts. I don't really have a slide actually on one of the other automations that we did around Prometheus. Ultimately, what we did, we had another problem with Prometheus. It's actually the same problem the SoundCloud guys have. They have all of these Prometheus servers, and they ultimately need to turn into data sources. And so what we did was we needed to figure out a way to use service discovery to figure out where our Prometheus servers are, and then generate them using the API into data sources. But I know I finished way early, so I guess I have like 7 minutes to take questions on something that's not really that complicated. I don't know how to turn this off. Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
So I guess just to tie it back to one of the earlier talks, and maybe this is where there's maybe some metadata that we need from Grafana, but I guess could you even tie, be interesting to tie back to like who's actually looking at dashboards. Like if people have created dashboards and nobody's ever looking at it, nobody's consuming the data, like how do you, so at some point you want to feed it back and read them or?
Yeah, I think that would be a great feature. I don't think Grafana's API has anything that will give you like a number of reads on a particular dashboard. But then it's also going to be kind of convoluted because if I have my dashboard on a monitor and nobody's in that office and nobody looks at that dashboard, but it's constantly refreshing every 5 minutes and leveling my Graphite cluster, it doesn't really tell me much. But yeah, I mean, if they had that API, I would definitely be interested in seeing what we could do with it. Yeah.
So what do you do about like the creation of new dashboards and sort of discovery of what if you don't know what the dashboard you want is before you want to create it? How do you?
So when you create a dashboard, you're playing around as much as you want, but ultimately the minute you hit that save button, you're telling us that this is ready to go onto either your screen when you're in the middle of a crisis or some monitor somewhere, like a physical monitor, I mean. So in theory, like during the testing process, maybe we can create like a naming convention that would fall outside of the regex that would be okay with it. But here's the thing, it's very easy for a developer to just say then, well, okay, I'm gonna make this test dashboard and I'm never gonna use it, but it's doing that 60,000 line query that it's gonna level the Graphite cluster anyhow. I saw a guy in the back with a blue shirt, yeah?
Yeah, so one of the situations that I always end up saying is, so a developer will make a metric, will make a dashboard based on the some service or whatever. And down the road, he'll change the endpoints of that service by refactoring his app, and that'll inherently change the endpoints because we automatically publish these API endpoints based on Java or something.
Yeah, so in theory, this will fix it right there. Basically what he was asking about is you have like a developer develops a graphite, a collect D metric somewhere, and it lives on your graphite server, and then he stops writing to it. We actually already have automation that does like GC for it, but if you don't do anything like that, this should do your job for you. Anybody else? Yeah.
So the number of the incoming data to Kibana was very impressive. So can you explain how big the cluster is?
The Elasticsearch cluster, you mean? Oh, you know what? I don't actually know the numbers, but there's a man right there in a brown Outbrain shirt that built it.
Cluster of just 6 nodes, yeah.
Really?
Everything is transferred over Kafka.
And anybody else? I don't know. Do I have any more time? I think, no, not really? Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys.